This is the new normal, and I think it's time for everybody to realize this is what it's like.
Newton takes the snap. He's going to run it to the right, to the upfield, and he waltzes into the end zone. Touchdown, Patriots!
It's Cam damn Newton.
Cam's going to run it to the 10, outside to the 5. Newton to the pylon.
Got
Touchdown,
it.
Patriots!
It's a new era in New England. The Patriots ran the ball on 65% of their plays Sunday, compared to a rate of just 40% last season. And after being the only team to not utilize a zone read option play last season, they rolled out 12 such plays with Newton under center, the most by any team thus far. Bill Belichick asked about the new look offense this morning. Here's what he said.
We always try to do what's best for the team to win. And, everything we've done for the last 20 years, and rightfully so, has been for Tom Brady. It was for Tom Brady. Everything was dedicated to him, other than the games that he didn't play in. When your starting quarterback has things that he's good at or things that you can take advantage of, then I think you try to take advantage of them.
So, Dan, Belichick acknowledging that the offense did look different yesterday. Take us back to Cam's first touchdown run. What stood out to you?
Let me show you. Let me get my Kenny Smith
get
on
over
here.
there.
Let me
Come
get my
on.
Kenny Smith walk to the screen. All right, it's about numbers. It's about confusion. It's about misdirection. First of all, you told you 7 guys in the blocking scheme. You're going to pull a guard. But I said all year that teams would have a +1. They've got 8 guys, Miami, defensively, with the running quarterback. Give him 1. You're going to leave that defensive end for Cam. You're going to go through this fake, and if that defensive end sucks down inside with his attention to Cam, it's an easy handoff for Burkhead around the edge. That's your numbers advantage only because you have Cam Newton. Now the confusion, you're going to flex out a tight end. He's going to crack block on that defensive end. That corner's got to follow. Release the back. The safety has to go with him and pull the tackle. That's difficult for those linebackers to see. Now you have a tackle pulling out on the edge with your quarterback running behind him, blocking a defensive back. Outstanding. Now misdirection. You put the tailback out outside. The linebacker has to go with him. Run him inside. Now there's communication between those linebackers. You're going to pull a guard around to be your lead blocker. That's great. Fake it to Burkhead. Misdirection. Those linebackers flow that way. Now you have a guard that chops off that defensive end in a race to the pylon. Those are 3 great examples of the way that they used Cam Newton and the way that they'll grow with it. Mina, what did you see out of that Patriots offense and expecting more of it in the future?
She's right there.
Hey.
Hey. I mean, Dan, I think the only person as happy as you were just now finally getting to use a touchscreen again was Josh McDaniels, right? Because it felt like watching that offense last night, he was taking a new sports car out for a spin, or maybe an all-purpose vehicle is a better way to describe it. That first touchdown you pointed to, one thing that jumped out to me was James White motioning across. Last season, when James White was on the field, the Patriots were going to pass the football 80% of the time. Now, you don't know what they're going to do. Cam might keep it. The linebackers are constantly frozen in a run-pass conflict, and that is the beauty of this Patriots offense right now. So much misdirection, so much confusion, constantly keeping linebackers on tilt. I love it.
All right, well, we love this. We just get to look at Mina. It's beautiful. As for Cam Newton, let's talk about what he thought about all this. He was asked this morning if he was worried about his 15 carries from yesterday.
That's just been me. I every year a new discussion comes up about, it's not smart to run, it's not smart to do this, it's not smart to do that. But at the end of the day, I just feel as if whatever necessary way you have to go about winning a football game, that's what you have to do.
Marcus Spears, Adam Schefter here with us for this part of the conversation. And Marcus, 15 carries for Cam. People are going to talk about can he sustain it, but can the Patriots sustain that over the course of 16 games and keep him healthy?
Ooh, it's a tough one, Laura. Based on history, recent history, no. But Cam seems to be in shape. He seems to be all for it, and he understands what the New England Patriots wants to do with him in this offense. Now, obviously, you would love, just like I liken it to Lamar Jackson, you would love your quarterback to be getting rid of the ball and throwing it downfield. But that's not where the success is going to lie with how they're deploying him offensively. When those opportunities present themselves, I'm sure they will get the ball out of Cam's hands, who didn't look bad throwing the ball down the field with some time and things in the passing game. But you have to use RPO, run pass option with Cam Newton, because that is where your success is going to lie, with him at the head of your offense.
It's amazing to think about that Cam Newton was on the market as long as he was, that he lands in New England on basically a veteran minimum kind of deal, and the Patriots are laughing. They're laughing over the fact that they get a former NFL MVP who did what he did yesterday, who's capable of being an NFL MVP and having that kind of quality season again, and they get to run a different offense than they have for 20 years over the last couple of decades with Tom Brady. They are two different players. They get to do different things, use different strengths, and I think it's refreshing to everybody in New England right now that they get to try something else with another player at this point in time that allows them to attack defenses in ways that they haven't before. You're seeing little passes out to the side like that. We've seen that before, but we've never seen a quarterback in New England be that aggressive the way Cam Newton is. I think they love this. I think everybody's energized by it in the organization.
Yeah, I was energized by your background changing right in the middle of your comments
how
there,
about that?
Chet. It was cool. Technology. Oh, it's still there. It's just like a whole new thing. It really brightens up the whole screen. All right, there was a moment in our group text yesterday where Mina Kimes said that the Cardinals 49ers game was spicy, and really, it was. We like a little spice on this show. Yeah. So, Mina, what stuck out to you in the Cardinals win over the Super Bowl runner-ups with Kyler Murray specifically?
Kyler Murray using his legs the way we hoped he would, which was smartly, okay? Running when he had light box, you'll see right here, oh, this run was electric. Actually, every single one of his runs came against light boxes. In this case, they had two tight ends in, had a numbers advantage. He took it, he ran with it. He barely got hit, barely got tackled, slid when necessary. This is the Kyler Murray we need to see for the Cardinals to be the playoff contender many people think they can be.
And to use Mina's pointing situation, because I think it just became one of my favorite things. DeAndre Hopkins can play football, people in Houston, and look what he did. I love what Cliff did, getting him the ball early, getting him involved, and letting everybody know this is our number one guy, and we are going to go to him. It is so good to beat Kyler Murray right now with DeAndre Hopkins as your one, and Larry Fitzgerald as your two.
I think Kyler Murray is already in the top 5 of players in the NFL that coaches or defenders don't want to play against. He's that special. Three-way quarterback. He could beat you with his arm. He could beat you with his legs, as Mina pointed out. And then he could beat you with his mind. Mina, you talked about all the runs. He had 13 runs yesterday. He was hit once. And that hit was like getting pulled on the jersey. So his game has gone to a whole new level, and he's a problem for the whole league.
Monday Night Football is back today, and we're leading you right to Monday Night Countdown right here on ESPN. Doubleheader to open the season. Who will start with a primetime victory in their opener? Game picks are next. And here is a look at MetLife Stadium for the first game of the doubleheader. Of course, the Giants and the Steelers kicking that one off soon.
NFL Live.
Countdown takes over. We'll be with you right up until we kick off the 51st season of Monday Night Football. Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers take on Saquon and the Giants at 7 Eastern. Then after that one's over, we'll take you to Denver for the Titans and the Broncos. Let's bring back in Adam Schefter for some updates on tonight's Monday Night Football matchups. Broncos wide receiver Courtland Sutton questionable with a shoulder injury. What's the latest you're hearing, Adam?
Lord, the sense I got talking to the team over the weekend was that it was going to be challenging for Courtland Sutton to play tonight with the injury that he suffered in practice last week, but it was not out of the question. They weren't giving up full hope just yet, but it was going to be difficult for him to get back out there. This is a team that last week lost Von Miller to potentially a season-ending injury, an ankle tendon injury, and now Courtland Sutton goes down. If he can't play, obviously it would be a bigger role for some of the other receivers, most notably the first-round pick, Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, in the first game tonight, Ben Roethlisberger making his return to the Steelers lineup after missing all but 2 games last season. He did miss the final practice on Saturday, that a coach's decision, but is not listed on the injury report. Any concerns in Pittsburgh about Big Ben?
No, they're excited to get him back, and they believe that with Ben Roethlisberger back at quarterback, healthy right now, that this gives this team hope that it didn't have last year. It gives this team potential that it didn't have last year. Look, they are a Super Bowl contender with Ben Roethlisberger, and they are not without him. He's back. The elbow's healthy. He feels no pain in it for the first time in a long time, and he is ready to roll on Monday Night Football tonight.
Shefty, we'll see you all night long, including the rest of this show, but right here on ESPN. Let's get to some game picks for Monday Night Football. Everybody here on the Steelers over the Giants, as we'll show you that momentarily. Mina taking the Steelers, Marcus taking the Steelers, I'm taking the Steelers. Oh, there it is. All right, so you can see our game picks. They're coming, I promise you. All right, yeah. Anyway, we all took the Steelers.
We took the Steelers, right?
That's all we
Steelers
need to
are
know.
going to win.
Either way, we're going to talk about the next game. Vrabel with an incredible mask moment. I don't know if you guys saw this. The head coach of the Tennessee Titans, his mask says, "Give Derrick Henry the ball." That seems to be a pretty good recipe.
What do you think the game plan is?
I mean, it makes sense that you would do that if you are the head coach of a team that has Derrick Henry on the team. All right, so let's go through some of our picks for this one. Dan, who you got? Why are you taking them?
I'm taking the Tennessee Titans mainly because with the loss of Von Miller, that defensive front for the Broncos will be a little bit less. And the Tennessee Titans have a very, very dominant and physical offensive line. The utilization of the run game and then Ryan Tannehill hitting some passes to A.J. Brown, that offensive line's too good for Tennessee. I'll take the Titans.
Yeah, I'm taking the Titans. Who did they just sign? I think guy by the name of Jadeveon Clowney. This pass rush is going to be a beast, and Drew Lock knows what's coming. And I just don't know if the young quarterback in this situation, especially with a team that's going to dominate time of possession with the way they play offensively, he's not going to have a lot of chances to have success. It's the Titans.
Well, this is boring because I'm also taking the Titans. But I'll say this. I hope that mask that Coach Vrabel wore, I hope it's a little bit of a lie. Not that I don't want Derrick Henry to get the ball, but I'm hoping, much like last year, Tannehill hits them with a heavy dose of play action. I think that'll be effective against that defense, and I'm expecting the Titans to put up a great showing.
Yeah, I'm going to be even more boring because I'm also taking the Titans. I am excited to see Drew Lock and Jerry Jeudy. That connection's going to be fun, but I just think this Titans team's going to be too much for all the reasons.
Can't wait for the Broncos to win 30-0.
I know. Listen, if we went 0 for 4, which is something that I tend to do in picks, then that really will be what we talk about tomorrow. Just kidding. Hey, the Washington football team showed their fighting spirit on Sunday. The fight led by Ron Rivera in this one, but you see Dwayne Haskins firing up his squad. And Dan, this is in the fourth quarter. Haskins getting the ball to Peyton Barber.
This is off another turnover. It was a big play for their offense, and then Carson Wentz being reckless in the pocket. You're going to see another turnover, just trying to manufacture things, force things to happen. The pass rush was absolutely dominant for Washington, and the Eagles' offensive line had no answer.
Yeah, Wentz sacked a career-high 8 times in the defeat. And he was pressured on 30% of his dropbacks yesterday. And on those 15 plays, he managed to complete just 2 of 7 pass attempts while taking 8 sacks, as I mentioned in the process. No Eagles quarterback has been sacked that many times since Donovan McNabb was wrapped up 12 times back in Week 4 of the 2007 season. Things really unraveled down the stretch. He posted a QBR of just 2.3 in the fourth quarter alone. Dan, it's no secret that you've been high on Carson Wentz. What were your thoughts on his performance Sunday?
Still high. My thoughts are this. There's not a lot of games in the NFL that are like, you should win that football game, team versus team. This was one of them. The Eagles should absolutely have won yesterday's game. Now, Wentz's job, don't do the one thing that you can't do to force that loss. To be too aggressive with the football, to allow the defensive line, the strength of that football team, to win the game. And that's what happened in the second half. He tried to be Superman every play, and that defensive line got going. This sack right here knocks them out. You're too smart of a player and too experienced of a player to let those sacks happen. To kind of go through the journey that he went on last year, where everything was around him was depleted, which it was yesterday, and still play quarterback smartly. Get the ball to my hands. Let the play execute itself. If we have to punt, it's okay. It's a team game. To watch that happen and then to see yesterday is inexcusable. And so the loss is on him. He owes his team a win very shortly. And for me, this has got to be a big correction today in the Eagles. This has got to be a correction today because they're not going to get healthier overnight.
You know, I know people expect me and Dan to fight and for me to bask in the glow of Carson Wentz having a bad second half against the Redskins, but I'm not going to go there because that first half was as good as I've seen a quarterback play. Then the guys we're talking about with Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, he was putting together one. The problem that I have with Carson Wentz, and I think a lot of people do, especially when Dan talks about him, his lows are terrible. He doesn't level off. Like there is just when he's bad, he is bad. And it's not like this middle of the pack where you can sustain it. It literally cost his team games. And look, I'm gonna give all the credit in the world to what the Redskins did defensively after he made those mistakes. You got a team, and we discussed this, with an offensive line in the Philadelphia Eagles that I just don't think can sustain against the type of defensive lines that they are going to have to face week in and week out in this league. And I think that showed his head. They have to play from ahead when you have those type of pass rushers, especially against the Washington Redskins, who has 6 guys that can flat out get after it. So to Dan's point, I think Carson to be fine. He has to understand that his lows can't be at the bottom of the floor. Playing bad is not a problem, but you can't play that bad and cost your team a victory and move on from this. And for everybody else out there in the NFL that's going to play the Washington Redskins, 1, they are as motivated by what their coach is doing right now. And 2, be careful if you fall behind because you may not have your quarterback the following week.
I'm glad you mentioned the Philadelphia offensive line because that is important context right here, right? Like, it is not Carson Wentz's fault that they lost a bunch of Pro Bowlers. That's not on him. But what is on him is being cognizant of the disadvantage they have on offensive line. By the way, that's on the coaches, too. I expect to see a bit more design rollout to compensate for that. I didn't. But putting a pin in that, Dan, you talked a little bit about Carson Wentz's journey, his development. And I almost wonder if, sometimes when you have a rookie quarterback who gets pressured too much, they get skittish. I almost wonder if the reverse happened with Wentz, where he got a little bit too lucky taking risks and making magic happen early in his career, extending plays.
Yeah.
And now some of those bad habits have stuck around.
That's a very good point, and it's a fair point. And that's when everyone has always said to me, and this was a big conversation last year, like, should Carson Wentz change the way he plays? And I've always been adamant, no. You have to refine the way you're playing. There's a sack in the second quarter yesterday. It's 2nd and 20. They run a play-action pass screen. It's not there. And instead of throwing the ball into the ground, he dances around and then runs into the defensive lineman. It's the same exact play he got hurt in the playoff game last year. And I get passionate about it because he's a better player. And at some point, your team has to be willing to look at you and go, you've learned. And if I'm Doug Peterson and something like this happens again next week, I've got to pull him over to the sideline and go, you can't play this way anymore. I have to know that I can trust you, that you won't hurt yourself or our team. This has to get fixed.
Yeah, and Dan, you brought up some of the injuries. Vinnie Curry and Craig James both suffered significant injuries, expected to miss multiple weeks, according to Doug Peterson. Brandon Graham in concussion protocol, Miles Sanders and Lane Johnson both day-to-day. We've got so much more coming your way. We're getting into the Cowboys, guys, next. And after coming up short, can Dak and the Cowboys deal with their late-game struggles, or will these fourth-quarter lapses prove to be the reason why Dak doesn't get a big payday? How about this? That's the scene there at MetLife. Daniel Jones, the Giants quarterback, doing something that looks like a really interesting dance. I don't know what that is. We'll be back. Monday Night Football on the way.
Fighting Spirit Moment is brought to you by Modelo.
Let's get to the Cowboys and the Rams. And it was all about the fourth quarter, so that is where we are going to pick it up, and then we're going to talk about it. 12 minutes left in the game. Cowboys trail 20-17. Mike McCarthy decides to go for it on 4th and 3. And Prescott finding CeeDee Lamb there, the rookie receiver, but Jordan Fuller tackles him short of the line to gain. Cowboys turn it over on downs. They would get another chance, so 30 seconds to play. Cowboys still trailing by 3. 3rd and 10 from their own 34. And Prescott going to Michael Gallup. He's able to make the catch, but watch what happened there on the sideline. A flag for offensive pass interference, defended by Jalen Ramsey, extending the right arms. There was some hand fighting there, but either way, a huge blow for the Cowboys. The Rams end up winning this one 20-17. Dan Orlovsky, let's start with the controversial 4th and 3 play. Did the Cowboys execute it well?
Yeah, it was totally fine. There's a saying in football, sometimes you get the bear and sometimes the bear gets you. Let's watch this play because the Rams do a great job. Starts with communication between safety and nickel. They're talking pre-snap. It's really going to be a traditional mesh concept. The tight end's going to push up, come across the field, pick the defender that's going to be covering CeeDee Lamb. And that's exactly what the Rams defense did to them. It was outstanding communication and execution.
All right, let me go to the former Cowboy then here, because, Marcus, I feel like this is deja vu to the Cowboys of 2019. We talked about the offense underperforming, play calls that didn't make sense every single week. That was like every week of last year. What is going on with these Cowboys? I realize it's only just one game, but you've still got Kellen Moore there. You bring in Mike McCarthy. It's supposed to be different.
Don't hold back.
What is happening with your former team?
Listen, 1-7, I think, in one possession game in the last 8 games. And this is going to point at Dak Prescott. And this is the conversation that we've had for almost a year and a half now. This is the conversation that we thought was going on in the front office of Dallas. Is he good enough for us to justify giving him the amount of money he's asking for when we need to win games in this particular situation? If I'm going to hold all of the quarterbacks that's paid and making all of this money to the standard of getting it done in those moments in games, got to hold Dak Prescott to that same standard. So if there is, look, I believe Dak Prescott is a really good quarterback, top 10 in my opinion in this league. I believe you can win a championship with Dak Prescott as well at your quarterback. But in these moments, Dak Prescott has to come through for the Cowboys, and we can't talk about Jason Garrett or Mike McCarthy or Kellen Moore. He has to figure out a way to make plays to win these games at these times.
Praying hands. Here we go.
Yeah, we can. I mean, they got out-coached. Dak Prescott was fine yesterday. We talked about Carson Wentz earlier, Jared Goff. Dak Prescott played better than both of those quarterbacks. The difference between these two offenses yesterday night, and really what I think was the difference in these games, is one coach put his offense consistently in a position to succeed. Jared Goff was good. He was serviceable. He averaged like 3.9 air yards per attempt. But McVay was killing them with screens, play action, motion. They had the most pre-snap motion in the NFL yesterday, three times on passing attempts. Dallas near the bottom, okay, with just 3 instances of using motion. And you talked about that 4th and 3rd play, Dan. You know what? You're right. The play call was fine. But what about the play before that? Running Ezekiel Elliott up the gut on 3rd and 6. They ran him too many times on 1st down. I was promised an offensive revolution in Dallas, and what I saw was basically what we saw with Scott Linehan, counting on these wide receivers to win their one-on-ones, and I get that. They're really good, but they should be so much better, and Dan, you know that.
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to bash Dak. Dak played good enough to win. You got to go more than 17 on the road, but you played good enough to win. I will say this. It's game 1 for Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore. I agree with you. Kellen Moore, who's a friend of mine, he's got to be better. Mike McCarthy and him are going to go watch that tape today and go, hey, Kellen, why did you call that play in that situation? Hey, why was it CeeDee Lamb and not Amari Cooper? You know, something like that where they're going to really get a feel for each other. But, Kellen, let me say this. I love you. If you don't start using pre-snap motion, you're going to get some really nasty text messages from me because it got to help your offense a little bit more. So there's some coaching that needs to get better in Dallas, yes.
Marcus, when we came out of break, there was this photo of Jerry Jones, like, sweating and being upset. What is Jerry Jones thinking today, considering how this looked yesterday?
But they have to finish those games. Yeah. This is the conversation we're having about the Cowboys. Everybody thinks they're good enough to win a Super Bowl. Everybody thinks they're a good enough team to win the division and go into the playoffs. They have to win these games. Majority of NFL games come down to the last few minutes of the game and you making plays. And that's going to be a reflection on Dak Prescott as long as he's there.
Yeah, our show is coming down to the last few minutes. We got time for one more thing before we go. I'm going to start, and I'm talking about Joe Burrow, the #1 overall pick who made his debut yesterday for Cincinnati. And look, he graded himself a D for his performance in a 3-point loss to the Chargers. I'd like to give him a B. Yeah, he made some mistakes, but keep in mind, he was running for his life a good bit of the game. He was hit early and often by Joey Bosa and the rest of the Chargers defensive front. He didn't back down and didn't look phased. You got a great one in Cincinnati. Dan.
Let Mina Kimes' best friend in the world, Russell Wilson, cook.
Oh, man.
He was outstanding yesterday, but this was the difference. This is the best skill position he's ever had. You watch those receivers win, Tyler Lockett, Greg Olsen, the screen game to the backs. Russell Wilson is going to have the best year of his career because of the people around him.
first, I want to apologize. Earlier in the show, I used the old name of the Washington football team, and that's a mistake that I shouldn't make and can't make. And secondly, I want to congratulate Ron Rivera for winning that game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Nobody gave them a chance. Washington football team went out and did it while he's in the midst of fighting his battle as well. Congrats.
All summer long, I've been pumping up the Lions, saying their luck was bound to turn. They had a great roster. Their fans were telling me, don't do that. I'm sorry. You were right. Okay, they went into fourth quarter yesterday with a 17-point lead. Teams that have done that have won 99.6% of the time, according to Sharp Football. And, well, you saw what happened. This team's cursed, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Trust me, I know it.
Yeah, Dan actually does know that. Hey, guys, can you feel it coming? The Monday Night Football music, can you hear it? It's coming your way.
Dun, dun, dun.
That was it. All right. Dan's not going to do that anymore. We will be back with you all week long on NFL Live. Monday Night Countdown is